Hello everyone, welcome back to your Physio Lab. Today we're going to be taking a look at how to use an osmometer. So based off of the name osmometer, it's going to be testing osmotic pressure. So in this case we're going to be using osmolality as our measure, but it's very similar to osmolarity. So we are going to be able to test osmolalities or osmotic pressures of various solutions to determine their concentrations of solutes. So what we're going to be doing here is using this machine and then adding a very small amount of solution to it. So first of all, let's get familiar with the parts that you'll need, which will include really just a couple of things. So number one, you'll need one of these small little paper discs. This little disc is going to be what you use to put your sample onto. And then to get your actual sample, you'll need a pipetter. So this is a pipetter that is going to be specifically for 10 microliters, meaning that this is all you'll need. This will be exactly what you need, and that's about it. So let's take a look at how we use this machine though. So number one, you might see that there's a knob over here for any given knob, but especially for this machine, please be careful with this knob. But to open it up, to unlock it essentially, you'll just turn the knob so that it's now open, and then you'll open up this chamber. Now once you slide that out, you can see that there's a small well which has a small little space, which is exactly where you're going to be able to put your small little paper disc. So that paper disc is going to go right here, right in the middle of that well, and then you may have guessed it, you're going to be putting your sample directly onto this disc. So here is our sample over here. This is going to be an unknown solution that we have, and because this is just a very simple pipetter, it can only do 10 microliters. But the same rules apply, where you want to press into the pipette first, put the tip of the pipette into the solution, and then slowly raise it up to make sure that you get the appropriate amount. If you go too fast, you might miss some, or you might get too much. You want to make sure that it is in a controlled manner so that you don't mess up the volume. For 10 microliters, any difference in volume can make a large difference in your result. So what we're going to do though is put our sample onto this little disc, and you have this little kind of guide that will allow you to do so very quickly and effectively. But essentially you'll just have that small drop come out of it, and that is going to be applied to that little piece of paper. So right there. And that's it. Now what you want to do is put this in slowly, turn the knob back, and it is now going to start a timer. That timer is going to count down until it is done so that we can read our result. But as you're doing this, something to keep in mind is that you are going to want to do all of your measurements in the same kind of pattern or method or time frame. You don't want to let your solution stay on that little circle for too long. You want to do this kind of consistently as much as you can. Otherwise, just a small amount of evaporation can affect your osmolarity or osmolality, because this is really dependent on the concentration and the amount of water as well as the amount of solutes in your solution. So try to do this as consistently as possible, which is really what you want to do for any type of scientific measurement though. So, but especially in this case, if you maybe take 2 seconds to close the chamber, try to take 2 seconds to close the chamber every time. Otherwise, your results may vary. So, only about 12 more seconds, almost done. But essentially, it's just going to give you a measurement on that screen, and that is what we're going to be getting for our osmolality. So here, let's take a look. 3,409 millimoles per kilogram. So that's a pretty high osmolality. So this is going to be our measurement for this solution. Now once we are done though, essentially we will just open this back up. We're going to take out our little disc, and you really want to make sure that you clean this really well. So in other experiments, such as in our lab, we might use hemolymph as our solutions. You want to clean that off. Like, you don't want to leave any residue, whether it's sticky or otherwise. Like, if you need to, use some deionized water, but this should be fine, at the very least for this solution. So I'll just wipe this off very gently, make sure that it's completely dry, and I'll close it back up, close it, and then turn it off until I'm ready for the next solution. But that's about it for how to use an osmometer. Like, we're going to be using this to test various solutions such as seawater as well as hemolymph of our different sample organisms, so that we can test their osmotic pressures or their internal osmotic pressures based off of their different or dependent on their different environments. So that's about it for this video. Thanks for listening, and I'll see you all next time.